Hello everybody and welcome back to Odin's Movie Blog. I am the critic who is a cynic, and today I'm going to be doing my official review of Luke Cage Season 2. So if no one's ever seen this before, it is a Netflix original series in conjunction with Marvel, and I would have to say that the relationship between Marvel and Netflix has overall been pretty good. There are very few bad shows, or at least bad episodes of the shows that they have, with one exception, and I feel like that is something that is just a very strong point to Marvel. Marvel is not only doing a really great job when it comes to their cinematic films with the MCU, but also their Netflix series are also amazing as well. And I think that really gives, I really want to give kudos to the MCU, or rather to Marvel and to Disney, to be able to, continue to produce really good content. And also the fact that since now Disney owns Marvel, that they haven't tried to neuter the shows that are on Netflix at all. I think that that's something that is a concern for a lot of people, because some of these are based on the comics, and the comics were definitely not PG comics. And I feel like if they were to take that away, if they were trying to make shows like, for example, The Punisher or Luke Cage, and to try and make them PG would just totally take away a whole lot of the action, a whole lot of the story, and a whole lot of the spirit behind these series, and I just don't think that would be a good idea. So that's why this relationship with Netflix has worked really well, and so I'm actually worried, and I'm really hoping that Disney does not try to bring these shows to their streaming service, because I don't know if their streaming service is going to be for all ages. I don't know if it's going to just be for kids, if they're just going to be focusing on kid programming. I don't know if it's going to try and appeal to all audiences, kind of like Netflix does. I honestly don't know what it's going to try and be, but I do have a concern, because I'm afraid if they try and bring it over, that they might try and limit what these shows can do. Now, with that being said, I will say that my biggest problem with Luke Cage in general, but especially this season, is definitely the language and a lot of the sexuality of the show itself. Now, I know that this might be me preaching to the choir here, but as someone who does teach theology at the high school level, these are things that I look at and I think to myself, what is this, what kind of effect, what kind of impact is this having on the youth that we have today? Because I know so many of my students watch these shows and love these shows, and I think there is a lot to like about these shows, which is why I'm going to get to my positives towards the very end. I just wanted to get my negative out of the way right off the bat and just say that I really do think that there's so much more that they could have done with this show in more creative ways, rather than relying on the language that's being used and some of the sexuality that exists between some of the various characters. And I really do think it would have been better overall for the show. Now, I understand that some people might say, well, the language is very true to the life in Harlem, or very true to the life within this community, and I guess you can make that argument, but at the end of the day, I don't feel like it's really promoting what they are wanting it to promote. I mean, yes, it might be true to life, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's promoting a lifestyle, or it's really promoting a way of being, or a personality that I really think that we should be trying to promote, not just to our youth, but to everybody. I do think that we have a problem when we speak to one another. It's something that I talk about a lot on this channel, is our language, is how we speak to one another, and I really think that the way that these characters speak to one another, especially within their communities, is not a very good thing to promote in a show. Now, some people want to say they're not really promoting it, but at the end of the day, when you have a character, when you have several different characters using certain language within the show itself, I do have a feeling that it's going to have an impact on the people watching it, especially the audience that it might make more sense to, or at least an audience that it might be more geared towards, because that's also, I would say, like the last big problem I have with it, is I feel like this show, more than any of the other shows, other than Jessica Jones, which is just garbage, but I'll get to that in another video, but I feel like this show is very much geared towards, or at least pushed towards, one audience over another, and there's nothing wrong with that, but the problem is that you then end up isolating a lot of the other audience members, because I know that when I was watching it, I was saying, I'm not really connecting with this, I don't really know what this is, I don't know what's going on here, and also, of course, I do feel like there were some political elements that were brought into the show that I just did not agree with. I thought was just totally off, just totally off kilter, just not really accurate, just really showing one side of it. And again, I'm not really surprised by that at all, but it is still something that I want to say, because I do not like when they bring that into shows, but overall I think that it fits. The reason why I don't have much of a problem with this as I do with Jessica Jones is because I feel like that kind of conversation and those kind of viewpoints really do fit the direction that this show wants to go in, and so it doesn't detract from it. It doesn't really take you out of the show as much as other shows or other movies might do, and so that's why it is still a problem for me. I still do have my issues with it, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's enough to take away from the show. Now, let me talk about the positives of the show, of which there are many. So first, let me just say, Mike Colter is incredible. He was the perfect casting choice for Luke Cage. He embodies Luke Cage. He does everything right, and he's just a badass. Like, he is someone who I'm like, man, I would not want to run to him. Even the actor, Mike Colter, I would not want to run into him on the street, because if I pissed him off, I would be afraid of getting my ass whipped, because he is just that much of a badass. He is awesome. But literally all the supporting cast is really great as well. I mean, you had Simone Missick, who played Misty Knight. I mean, Misty Knight was kind of a side character in season 1. She comes full force on as pretty much almost like a co-lead in a lot of the way. At least to me, she came across as a co-lead, and her character arc was really, really cool. Everything, of course, just to talk about a little bit, this season picks up after not only the events of Luke Cage season 1, but also after the Defenders, when all of the different Marvel characters on Netflix came together to fight one big bad. And I do think that it was really cool that we're able to kind of pick up from that as well. And so you do need a little bit of that, because I noticed that when I was watching season 2, I forgot a lot of the things that had happened, and so I wished I had watched a refresher. You know how a lot of times the Netflix shows have a recap beforehand? This, at least when I first started watching, because I was kind of looking forward to the recap just so that I could have my mind refreshed, I did not know exactly what was going on. I was trying to catch up, and I was trying to like mentally think, okay, what happened? Why is this character? Why does Misty's character have, why does Misty missing an arm? I totally had forgotten about that, because it's been a while since season 1. It's also been a while since the Defenders, and also the Defenders wasn't a very strong team up. I don't think it was as strong as it could have been, and that's another reason why I just really didn't remember it very much. But no, Simone, she is just fantastic in this role. She's great, and Misty's probably one of my favorite characters, because she is just, again, just like Luke Cage, she's a badass, but she's in it in a different way, because she's a cop. She has a lot of conflict within her, which is awesome to see. I mean, she has a really great character arc where she really wants to be, hard-nosed, doesn't care if she's, tiptoeing the line of the law, and she just wants to get things done. She just wants to be able to produce results, and I think it's just really compelling and interesting to watch. And then you have on the other side Luke Cage, who's saying, I want to have the same result as you, but I want to go about it in a different way. So the dynamic that's played between them is actually very, very cool, and also Misty's character goes through this character arc that really does develop over time, and it's really, really cool. And on top of that, you also have just amazing, you just have so many great supporting characters in this. I mean, you have Theo Rossi, who plays Hernan Shades Alvarez, who is just awesome. I mean, there's a part in this series, I'm not going to go into any spoilers, but there's a part in the series where he's, obviously he's undergoing some kind of an interrogation, and just the way that he presents himself as just this ass who's trying to do something is just amazing. Like, he fits that character so well. And then, of course, you have to talk about Alfre Woodard, who plays Mariah Dillard. Oh my goodness. Or Mariah Stokes, as she likes to get across in this season in particular. Oh my goodness, she's probably one of the best villains in any TV series that I have ever seen. I mean, you hate her. She is despicable. She does things that are just awful, and her character arc is even, I mean, if you thought she was bad in season 1, just wait until you watch season 2. The journey that her character goes on is just incredible, and also you get a lot of background on her as well. So before, you just knew she was bad. You knew that she came from a family of criminals, but you never really knew exactly why she was bad, why she was affected this way, why she could just be willing to be such a despicable human being. You get a little insight as to why she is the way that she is, and also why she eventually goes even further than she has done in the previous season. I mean, oh my goodness, Mariah Dillard's character is just incredible. She is, again, she's despicable, and that's exactly what that character should be. She is the villain, and you feel like she's the villain, and you hate her because of the fact that she is the villain. So again, great casting there. And the last person that I want to talk about as far as the casting goes, as far as like the main cast goes, before I'm going to get into some of the cameos, because I don't really think it's a spoiler to talk about cameos at this point, because I think everyone knows that these Marvel shows are always going to have crossovers, or always going to have cameos of some sort, so I don't really think it's a spoiler. But if that's something that affects you, if that's something that you don't want to know, want to know who's cameoing in this series or in season 2 of Luke Cage, then I'll let y'all know when I'm about to go into that. But I do want to talk about Mustafa Shakir, who plays John Bushmaster MacGyver. Oh my goodness, Bushmaster is also awesome. Like, he is probably more of a side villain, because really Mariah is the head villain. Like, she really is the main focus of the show. She is the one that everyone is trying to get. She is the one that everyone is pissed at because of how just downright evil she is. So even to the point where another bad guy, who is Bushmaster, has some history with her, and their families have had history together. There's been a lot of bad blood between their families, and he is awesome too. So he is someone who is able to somehow have similar strength to Luke Cage, really best Luke Cage in some situations, and also is just a very good match for Luke Cage. So obviously, when you have someone who's bulletproof, who has super strength, who has all these different characteristics, you need someone who can match that. And so the way they're able to use that with Bushmaster, with the things that what he's able to do, but also they help to explain why he's able to do these things. And so it helps to kind of just, he's not just another superhero, or supervillain. He's not just someone who's been affected. He's not just someone who was tested on or anything like that. It's someone who has a motivation. You understand his motivation, and over the series, over this season especially, you're able to understand it, and it's almost to the effect fact of Bushmaster to me is almost a lot like Thanos from the Avengers, where you obviously know that he's a bad guy. You don't agree with what he's doing, but when it's revealed his mindset, when it's revealed his motivating factor, you think to yourself, okay, I can understand why you're acting in the way that you are. I don't agree with it, but I can at least understand it to a point. Very similar with Thanos. Obviously, none of us agree that half the universe should be wiped out, but at the end of the day, we can at least understand his mindset. Again, not agree with it, but at least understand it. Same thing with Bushmaster here. It really is just a great character overall, and it's fantastic. So now I'm going to get into some cameos, some supporting characters that come in and out of the show. One who is, of course, in the show for a little while, and that is, of course, Rosario Dawson, who plays Claire Temple, Night Nurse, and it's just really cool to see her. It's really cool to see her once again interacting with Luke Cage, but then again, that's also where, that negative from talking about the sexuality between her and Luke Cage is just something I don't feel like it's necessary. It's kind of like HBO shows. It feels like every HBO show has to have nudity, has to have sexuality, and it's just to the fact where, no, you don't need those things. Those are things that are not necessary for this characters, for this show, and I really do wish that they had focused more on the story. But again, luckily the bad things that I talk about don't take away enough from the story for me to say, don't watch this series. I think there's still enough there. But also there are cameos from Danny Rand makes an appearance for an episode, which is actually really cool. It's probably the best Danny Rand that we've seen thus far. I know a lot of people are critical of Iron Fist and his portrayal, but Danny Rand is really cool in this series. But also, I will say that my favorite cameo by far, I think my favorite cameo that I like, it's just because I really love this character a lot. I mean, she to me was the best part of Iron Fist. She was the one who is just, I mean, again, she's the reason why I kept watching Iron Fist and why I'm looking forward to season 2 of Iron Fist, because of how awesome her character is. And that is the character of Colleen Wing, who is just amazing. I mean, the actress Jessica Henwick is fantastic. She is wonderful. She's kick-ass. Again, when you talk about characters, when you talk about Iron Fist, the character that everyone loves, the character that everyone wants to talk about and wants to see more of, and I would even say I would love to see a separate spin-off series just focusing on her backstory because she's awesome and also a great fighter, is the story of Colleen Wing. And of course, Jessica Henwick, as I said, does an amazing job portraying her, and it's fantastic. So those are pretty much the big cameos in it. There are, of course, other surprises, twists, and turns that happen in the show, and I'm not going to go into those, but I do want to say that I do recommend watching this, but I do want to give that, kind of that warning that there is a lot of language, the kind of language that I'm not a huge fan of. So again, I understand cursing every now and then, but when it's cursing and then also using racial words for each other, even though it might be within a specific community, I'm just not a big fan of that overall, and I do have a problem with that, and so that's the reason why I do have a problem with that. I do want to warn against that. So there is sexuality, there is language, so if that's something that you don't really like, you might not like this series, it might be enough to take you out of it. Wasn't enough for me. It's enough to recommend this series, so I give the overall season 2 a solid B. It's a great series, it's a great cast, and it's a really great season as well, and I really cannot wait to see season 3 and also what they're able to do with Luke Cage in the future. The only other thing I will say is that the ending, which is again getting into spoilers, the ending to me is one I wasn't a huge fan of. I think other people will love it, some people won't. I just don't know if it's really justified. I really don't understand why these characters go in the way that they do at the very end of the series, at the very end of the season 2, and I'll be interested to see what they do with season 3, but it is one of those things where I'm not really sure how I feel about it. But anyway, have y'all seen Luke Cage season 2? Let me know. What are your thoughts on Luke Cage? Let me know in the comments below. I'd really greatly appreciate that. Also, if you like this video, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe if you haven't done so already, and also share this video if you like it as well. As always, I do greatly appreciate that. Have a great day, and God bless.